Akachi at that moment froze in shock as she wished the ground would just open up and swallow her. Akachi had never been this embarrassed in her life. With tears in her eyes, she returned home to meet her old grandmother. Once upon a time, there lived a very handsome man who was the delight of all the women in the village. His name was Uchendu, and he was the most eligible bachelor in the village. Uchendu never spoke to or hung around any girl who was not beautiful in his eyes. He believed himself to be the most handsome man and never to be seen around any ugly girl. Even his two best friends, Nduka and Chuma, were also extremely handsome, as Uchendu ensured that he picked friends who made him feel good about himself. The young ladies in the village saw it as a privilege to be seen around Uchendu. However, Uchendu was in a relationship with the most beautiful girl in the village named Oma. Everyone in the village envied their relationship and wished to be like them. They would always talk about how perfect they looked together and how their future children would inherit their good looks. One day, whilst Uchendu was returning home from hunting with his friends, he came across a girl in the village named Akachi. Akachi approached Uchendu to talk to him, but Uchendu got furious as Akachi did not fall into the league of the kind of girls that he associated with. According to Uchendu, Akachi was too ugly to be seen around him. Without wasting any time, Uchendu told her off and warned her never to approach him in her life. He spoke to her harshly, not minding what she had to tell him, as he walked off with his friends who mocked and laughed at Akachi. Akachi at that moment froze in shock as she wished the ground would just open up and swallow her. Akachi had never been this embarrassed in her life. With tears in her eyes, she returned home to meet her old grandmother. A few weeks later, news began to circulate around the village that Uchendu got lost in the village cave. His friends and himself decided to visit their village cave, which they had always visited. To their greatest surprise, when they emerged from the cave, Uchendu was nowhere to be found. News of this spread around the village, and the villagers all went in search of him but could not find him. After searching for hours, they had no other option but to assume that something terrible might have happened to Uchendu. Akachi, on hearing this, rushed to the cave in search of Uchendu. She called out his name severally as she combed the entire cave in search of him. To her greatest surprise, she came across a figure in the distance and walked gently towards it. What she saw next was so scary as Akachi was confronted with the sight of a man whose face looked like that of an ugly beast. It was Uchendu, who now looked like a beast. Akachi could tell that it was him because of the necklace he had on his neck. Uchendu, what happened? Asked Akachi, who was now filled with so much fear. She had never seen anything like this in her life and wondered how this could have happened. Akachi and Uchendu emerged from the cave to meet all of Uchendu's friends standing outside, including his girlfriend Oma. On sighting Uchendu, his friends were all terrified as they could not believe that the scary looking beast that they were looking at was their friend Uchendu. Uchendu, in a bid to show them that he truly was the one, told them things that only they knew. This, however, did not change anything, as his friends, including his girlfriend Oma, ran away from him and did everything possible to stay away. Uchendu had never felt this kind of rejection in his life. Even the entire village rejected him, calling him ugly. Only Akachi stood by him and was not deterred by his strange transformation. She inquired to know what had happened, and Uchendu told her that all he could remember was that he suddenly felt dizzy and woke up a few minutes later as a beast. Akachi then decided to get to the root of what happened. Uchendu was shocked to see how Akachi stood by him despite all the horrible things he had done to her in the past. He decided to apologize for treating her terribly despite the fact that they were once best friends. Akachi and Uchendu were childhood best friends who grew up together. Their parents were neighbors and also good friends until Akachi's parents died in a ghastly accident, leaving her in the care of her grandmother. Akachi and Uchendu were inseparable when they were kids, but as they grew older, Uchendu found himself drawn towards the outward appearance of people and not their true character. Akachi did all she could to remain friends with Uchendu, but all her efforts ended in futility as Uchendu found himself so ashamed to be seen around Akachi. As the days went by, Akachi began to dig into the mystery of Uchendu's transformation. She decided to visit the cave alone one evening. She searched the cave for clues but found nothing. She then returned home worried and spoke to her grandmother about all that had happened. Filled with compassion for Uchendu, her grandmother assured her that everything in life happens for a reason and that Akachi should stop troubling herself as everything will work out perfectly in the end. Akachi, on hearing the kind words from her grandmother, was filled with so much faith that everything indeed will be fine. Uchendu, on the other hand, remained indoors, agitated at the fact that he was now an ugly beast. What the villagers were saying about him began to weigh him down, as he could not believe how fast the tables turned on him. Whenever Akachi visited Uchendu, Uchendu would pour out all his anger on her as though she was responsible for what had happened to him. Despite how horribly Uchendu treated Akachi, Akachi still remained steadfast as she always showed up to keep him company. This went on for months till one fateful day. Uchendu realized that Akachi did not come visiting. This was unusual as Akachi never missed showing up. He waited till nightfall but did not see Akachi. Days passed and Akachi still hadn't visited. Uchendu was now furious as he could not believe that Akachi too had abandoned him. He remained in his room weeping when a voice in his heart pushed him to go see why Akachi had not visited. Uchendu summoned the courage as he stepped out of his house for the first time since his transformation. Everyone stared and pointed at him as he walked past them, but Uchendu paid no mind to them as he proceeded to Akachi's hut. Upon reaching Akachi's hut, Uchendu was surprised to find it empty. As he was about leaving, he stumbled upon Akachi's grandmother, who revealed to him that Akachi had been battling a very serious sickness for years. Uchendu could not believe his ears, as Akachi always looked strong and fine. What he did not know was that Akachi only acted strong in front of him, as she never wanted him to worry about her. On that fateful day, when Akachi stopped him on the way when he was returning home from hunting with his friends, she had made up her mind to inform him of her sickness, but Uchendu, instead of listening, disgraced and belittled her in front of his friends. This occurrence broke Akachi's heart, further worsening her health condition. Filled with regret for how he had treated her, Uchendu rushed to Akachi's side. He apologized sincerely, expressing remorse for his past actions. Akachi, although weak, forgave him and accepted his apology, and Uchendu remained by her side, watching over her and praying for her recovery. Uchendu at this point stopped worrying about his current predicament as he was focused on Akachi's recovery. He paid no mind to what the villagers had to say and noticed an unusual peace in his heart while he was with Akachi. One night, Uchendu noticed that Akachi's condition was worsening. He could not sit back and watch her die, so he left her side and rushed off to an undisclosed location. Akachi's grandmother watched in fear as her granddaughter grew weaker. The healer revealed to her that Akachi would unlikely make it to sunrise. Akachi's grandmother's heart sank as she could not bear to lose her granddaughter. She cried her eyes out, hoping for a miracle to happen. By morning, Akachi was pronounced dead by the healer, and this broke her grandmother's heart into a million pieces. Her grandmother then began to make plans for her burial when Uchendu ran in to stop them. He placed a precious stone on Akachi's forehead and said some words beneath his breath. To everyone's surprise, Akachi woke up and everyone's eyes shone in shock. What had happened was that when Uchendu noticed that Akachi was dying, he rushed off to their village cave as he knew that a great power resided within the cave. He cried and pleaded for the power to save Akachi's life, offering his own life in exchange, and the spirit residing within the cave answered him, saying that for Akachi to live, he would have to die. Without thinking twice, Uchendu agreed, and the spirit gave him a strange-looking rock and told him to place the rock upon her forehead and whisper some words. Uchendu did as the spirit had commanded, and Akachi came back to life. Immediately Akachi woke up, Uchendu noticed that he too began to transform back to his handsome self. What he did not know was that selflessness was the key to his redemption. Instead of him dying, his beastly nature died, releasing him from the bondage that had kept him captive for months. Uchendu was so excited to see Akachi alive and well, and from that day forward, he learned his lessons never to discriminate against others because of their looks. The news of Uchendu's transformation spread around the village, and his friends and girlfriend Oma regretted turning their backs on him. The bond between Uchendu and Akachi deepened, and they cherished every moment they shared together. The village, once divided by judgment, learned the valuable lesson that true beauty lies in actions of kindness and selflessness, and not outer appearance. The lesson to be learned from this story is that the true beauty of a person is not in their outward appearance, but the beauty they bring into the lives of others. Learn to treat people with kindness, because you never know what they are going through at that point in their lives. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Like, subscribe and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.